This is MuggleCast, the Harry Potter podcast discussing everything about J.K. Rowling's wizarding world. Welcome to MuggleCast episode 338. I'm Andrew.
I'm Eric.
I'm Micah.
And we have a guest joining us this week, Kyle, who you actually may have heard about in the headlines recently. How's it going, Kyle?
Fantastic, thank you.
We'll explain what I mean in a few minutes. But you've also been a longtime listener of the show, right?
Yep, I've been listening since maybe not episode 1, but episode 2, definitely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And where do you live?
I live in Oregon City, Oregon.
It's so peaceful up in the Northwest. I'm jealous.
Well, thanks for getting up early. It's not...
oh, yeah.
It's not 11 a.m. out there right now.
No, it's... but, you know, as a teacher, I'm used to getting up early.
That's right. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you again for getting up early on this Sunday morning. Let's get your fandom ID, and then Eric and I are going to talk about a Harry Potter trivia night that we went to. Kyle, what's your favorite Harry Potter book and film?
My favorite book is Half-Blood Prince. I love all the history of Voldemort and that kind of stuff. My favorite movie is Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah. In relation to our recent discussion, what is your favorite Hogwarts course?
I love Transfiguration. It's the coolest type of magic for me.
Cool. How about favorite Hogwarts teacher?
Lupin, hands down.
Why hands down?
He is the type of teacher that I try to be with my own students. He shows compassion for his students and, really seems to care about them and lets them know that he cares about them. And I try to do that in my classroom.
Oh, that's sweet. What's your Patronus?
A bay stallion.
Ooh. A bay stallion. A stallion that hangs out by the bay?
I guess so. I'm still a little confused about that.
Where the watermelons grow. You know. Back to my home. I should like to go.
Yeah. How about your Hogwarts and Ilvermorny houses?
I'm a proud Hufflepuff.
Yeah, Badger, represent.
And then I'm also a Puckwudgie.
Yeah.
Nice. Hufflepuff, Puckwudgie, I feel like that's the appropriate combo.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
What?
Hufflepuff Thunderbird over here.
Yeah.
Well, mistakes are made all the time, Eric.
Very funny.
Anyway, good to have you on, Kyle. We'll talk about your classroom that you transformed into
transfigured, let's say.
Transfigured, yes, into a Harry Potter classroom. We're going to hear about that in a moment. Eric, I'm a resident of Chicago now. You're a longtime resident of Chicago. You invited me to a Harry Potter trivia night earlier this week.
And you came out.
I came, of course. What do you think? I have things to do? No, I came out. And with a couple of your friends at a bar near Wrigley Field, the ball-based field.
Yep.
And it was a fun night. It was my first Harry Potter trivia night, but you've been to a few, right?
I've been to a couple, yeah. Probably like 3 or actually 4 now that I think about it. But that was the 4th. But it was definitely, I have to say I was pleased because the difficulty of questions was high, as it sometimes is, but a lot of the questions were based off the books. And this was the first trivia night that really seemed to focus a lot on questions pulled from the books. And the way that a lot of these work is you get, massive groups of really drunk people who used to be Harry Potter fans, who've most likely or more often seen the movies, out to ask them a lot of movie questions. And it's just, it's a good time, but it's pub trivia. It doesn't really challenge the book nerd or the book lover. And this
one did
a stark contrast. In fact, I hated how book specific these questions were.
It started with movies. We had to identify actors, which some of them were very easy. Some of them were actually pretty difficult. But yeah, the book stuff. So I went into this knowing I probably wasn't going to do well, because if it's a very serious Harry Potter trivia night quiz relating to the books, like I quite often don't remember many of the little details. And this one really did go into the details. But luckily, Eric knows his stuff very well, and also your friend who was sitting to your left, she had like just read books 1 and 2, and one of the rounds focused on books 1 and 2, so she did well there.
Yeah, that was Catherine. Catherine, Jessica, and Lauren. I actually went to college with Lauren, and they're all sisters. So they were those three, and then Andrew and I were Team D's Sickles, which Andrew came up with.
What happened to the other
I did not.
name? What?
Oh, you didn't? Oh, well, we were going to be D's Nuts.
Canute.
Canute. N-U-T-Z.
Yeah, K-N-U-T. But I thought it was too blunt. And so, actually it was Catherine who said, well, how about D's Sickles? And they have to think about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, you have to think about it. We had previously.
I wanted our team name to be Is Lavender Dead?
Yeah.
It would just
which
be a
we
very
then were
inside
like,
joke.
we were like, well, maybe it's Schrodinger's Lavender because she's like sometimes dead and sometimes not. And that would have been my team name suggestion. But anyway, we previously have been out as the Blast-Ended Skanks. So this was a
You should have kept
treat
that
for
name.
me. Yeah,
That just describes both of you to a T. I mean,
the
Wow.
team names are honestly, thank you, Micah. The team names are honestly some of the best reasons to go out of the house. And as the winter months,
well, do you get extra credit? Like,
No.
You don't. You don't
Not
get
this
like an
one.
extra couple points for the best name.
No, they didn't do that.
no,
There was
no,
a lot
they
of good ones. I can't remember them, but getting back to the point of like being at a bar with other people who love Harry Potter, that was really cool because people came in wearing their cool Harry Potter adult merchandise. Just like it felt good to be around fellow Harry Potter fans who like also wanted to be out on a Tuesday or Wednesday night answering Harry Potter questions. But
getting their brains teased. There was a Hedwig backpack I had my eye on the whole night. Yeah, it was really, really, really good stuff. And some of the questions too, just as an example, the ones that I remember, for instance, what is the name of the Muggle woman whom the Muggle Tom Riddle Sr. Is romantically interested in before Merope Gaunt takes him away and gives him the love potion?
Anyone know?
I'll give you one hint. It's a Simon and Garfunkel song. It's Cecilia.
Cecilia.
Yeah. You're breaking my
heart. So anyway, we did really, really well. No thanks to me. We were first until the final round. We were first by like a long shot, by like a good 10 points. And we were kind of all surprised because you don't know how everybody's ranking while the rounds go on. But then we found out we're first and we were like, oh, this is crazy. And then we ended up in second because the bonus rounds, we just didn't do as well as the second.
Yeah, because the wager put another team up in excess of, essentially in excess of the difference. And there were two places where we failed, Andrew. The first, there was a round which we could have gotten double points, but the question was name the 10 members who are at Malfoy Manor in the beginning or name the 10 characters who are present in chapter 1 of book 7 it was. So it was very vague, but it's the Charity Burbage death scene. And, unfortunately I suggested that Pius Thickness was there, and in the books he is not. In fact, it is Dolohov, which I never would have guessed.
Come on, Eric.
We lost 9 or potentially 10 points because Pius Thickness is there in the movie. So, that's on me, and I take full responsibility.
Off the show.
But then the wager question was, God, what was it? The 3 characters who,
Harry picks to be chasers
on the Quidditch team. Yeah, to be on the Quidditch team in book 6. See, this is the reason, really short, that I like this trivia guy, and he knew exactly where people's book blind spots are, right? Like, who really remembers that much about Harry picking chasers, in book 6? For Quidditch, I barely remembered there was Quidditch in book 6. There isn't in the movie. But because book 6 is all about Voldemort and you're into the pensive or the love, Quidditch is such a blind spot for me. Kyle, would you be able to tell us which 3 characters Harry picks as chasers in book 6, your favorite book?
No, not even close.
Well, thank you.
Guessing
Okay,
Ginny.
point proven.
One of them was Ginny, yeah.
It was Ginny. It was Angelina. Wait, no.
Angelina Jolie.
Katie Bell. No, it was Katie Bell.
Katie Bell.
Ginny, and then Demelza Robbins.
The third one is the one we got tripped up on. It was some random character who you would never remember.
Yeah, Demelza Robbins. So Dean Thomas is like chosen, but as a backup, so that wasn't the correct answer.
Anyway, it was a fun night. If you keep an eye out for local trivia companies hosting Harry Potter trivia nights near you. And
yeah, the ones near us was Brain
recommend
Bash, Brain Bash Trivia. There's another one, I think Nerds Who Drink maybe does some. Look them up. And you know what? We met fellow Harry Potter podcasters when we were there.
We did. They were like kind of co-hosting the event. Potterotica.
Potterotica podcast.
They read dirty Harry Potter fan fiction. I'm going to give them mine. Never sever us. But yeah, so it was nice meeting them. They've actually listened to MuggleCast as well, and they're going to be part of the Chicago Podcast Festival coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. If Mike was out here, we could have done that.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see. There's still time.
You could guest on that show.
Yeah. All right, so that was trivia night. So turning back to Kyle here. So Kyle, tell us a little bit about what you do. You're a teacher.
Yeah, so I'm a special education middle school teacher here in Oregon. So I teach math to students who, need a little bit more help with math. They're slightly behind, just need a little extra support. So that's my job.
So then you decided, I guess at some point over the summer, that you were going to decorate your classroom, basically a complete takeover of Harry Potter, right? You kind of decorated it like it would be a Hogwarts classroom.
Yeah. So I had done I had a little corner of my classroom last year, that had, Harry Potter memorabilia up on one of the tables, and we did some house point stuff. But I thought over this summer, why don't I go just all out to really immerse the students and give them a really awesome classroom that they've never experienced before.
Yeah. So what did you do? Describe what it ended up looking like. I remember seeing like brick walls in some corners.
Yeah, so I found this wallpaper that looks like stone, and I put that up on every inch of all of the walls in the classroom. So essentially transforming the walls from just plain white walls to now they were all made of stone, to look like the inside of a castle.
Yeah.
I covered the entryway with red brick and had a little sign for platform 9 3/4. So coming through the front door is actually like going through the platform.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I covered all of the ceiling panels, and this took the longest. I bought like 150 black garbage bags.
I see.
Cut them out. Yeah, I cut them out into rectangles, and then splatter painted them with white and gold paint, and then stuck them up one by one. There was like 137 of them, I think, to make the ceiling look like the night sky in the Great Hall.
That is so cool. So how long do you think it took you to do all of everything from start to finish?
Well, if I include from the time that I got into the classroom, it was about 5 weeks and maybe 70 total hours of work. But there was some preparation that I did, in the spring where I was, drawing out plans for how I wanted the room to look like. I was looking up supplies on Amazon. Mm-hmm. So it was a long, long time, but just the work inside the classroom over the summer was about 5 weeks, of my summer vacation.
Wow. So, and then your story gets crazier because you posted on Facebook photos of your work, and I know you tweeted us. We checked it out, like, oh, cool stuff. And then somehow websites like BuzzFeed and Good Morning America start picking up your story, and before you know it, it's viral. I'm looking at this BuzzFeed post as 140,000 people just on BuzzFeed have looked at your classroom.
Yeah, there's 2 million views on Facebook.
Yeah, you're just like a superstar. I mean, what was it like suddenly just going viral, like your classroom going viral?
Yeah, that was nuts. I was not expecting that at all. I mean, I knew that what I had done was pretty cool and extensive, just because I liked it. And so, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I knew if I liked it, other people might. And that was really why I wanted to share it, was because I thought my friends and family would think it was really cool. And then I shared it to a couple, Facebook groups, and I shared it out to you guys, and shared it with like Harry Potter circles that I thought might appreciate it. And then it just started to spread on Facebook. And I guess, the right people ended up finding out about it, that they were in contact with, sites like ABC News and BuzzFeed and Huffington Post. And so once they reached out to me and put it up on their sites, then it just really, really spread like wildfire.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite parts of this room are the house banners that hang above each table. So you have house tables in your classroom.
Yep.
Do you ever have any students that don't want to sit in the Slytherin table? Is that like the punishment table?
You know what? Actually, so most of my students, unfortunately, they're not that familiar with Harry Potter.
Okay.
Which is kind of a bummer, but at the same time, it's also kind of nice because they don't have that same stigma against Slytherin.
Yeah.
So I haven't had too many issues of students not wanting to sit at Slytherin. The only issue I've had of what house that they got sorted into was that they wanted to sit next to their friends. And so that was really the only thing.
You got a class of Hufflepuffs. I love it. But then of course your office, which appears to be, so it's kind of, they show it in low light in one of these photos and it looks really like creepy, like Snape's dungeon,
That's my favorite part.
But, it looks like a real, like awesome, cozy place to get work done.
Yes. Yeah. So that was my favorite spot to set up, and it's also my favorite spot to go to after the students have left.
You've got the owl bookends. You've got the lantern, the crest rug, which I have actually in my house, hanging behind the chair. It looks amazing.
Yeah. No.
Do other teachers, this just must stand out so much at your school. So how did the other teachers react? Like, is your classroom like the cool one to come hang out in?
Yeah, definitely. So the other teachers and my principal, they've all been really, really supportive. They've come in, when we had our in-service week before the start of the school year, I told everybody, I said, hey, I've done something really cool in my classroom. You're all welcome to come and check it out, sometime this week. And so they came in throughout the week and they were all just blown away. They love it.
Good.
But the big thing is, I teach my students in my classes, but there are hundreds and hundreds of other students around the school that I don't have in class. Well, when they found out about my classroom and then when they saw it go, viral on the news, now I have almost all the students across the school stopping me at lunchtime saying, hey, can we check out your classroom? Can we come in? And they're like, how do I get you as a teacher next year?
That's awesome though. And I mean, has that kind of spurred you at all to think about doing like an after school program, particularly around Potter, or is something like that already exist?
It doesn't exist. So, but I have thought about either doing like a Harry Potter club, or what I would love to do is a Quidditch team after school.
That'd be awesome. I mean, obviously it's huge in college circles. The Quidditch World Cup going on every year. So you just start the next level down, get them, or even middle school, high school. Let's go. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I actually just tried out Quidditch, the Muggle Quidditch, for the first time a couple weeks ago. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot more intense than I was expecting. And I was sore the next morning. It's very physical.
Yeah. I remember seeing like EMTs standing by at the Quidditch World Cup in New York a few years ago. Like, oh man, this is some serious stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think so? Will you keep this classroom like this, like into next year too, or?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it was a lot of work, and so
yeah,
I would feel bad if I had to take it all down, every year and replace it or do something like that. So I hope I can keep it up essentially as long as I'm in that room.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Couple of comments from our patrons listening live. Nolan Brigman says, "My old high school physics teacher posted your Facebook post to my wall."
Hashtag viral.
That's really cool. James says, "That's amazing. Well done, Kyle." And Evelyn says, "Gosh, I wish I had a teacher like that when I was at school."
Yeah.
I can safely say I feel exactly the same way, sir. Hats off to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much.
Heard from other teachers around the country as a result of this?
Yeah, I have. I've had tons of teachers, not just in my own building or even in my own district, but yeah, you're right. All over the country and even around the world, they've contacted me on Facebook or found my email, and they've just said, "This is so inspiring. I want to do something like this next year." And that's really been, for me as a Hufflepuff, that's kind of really the most exciting part about this is it was a lot of work for me, but it's really just a small little thing that I did in my classroom. But the fact that it's been able to spread this level of positivity and inspire other teachers to really connect with their students as well, that's the most fulfilling part about all of this.
Yeah. You did get some Laura Mallory types coming at you somewhere. Where were they? In the comments of some articles or something?
Oh, yeah. Especially once it went national. That's when the people who were like, he's teaching witchcraft, he should be fired. And
it's numbers. I mean, they're pretty non-denominational. Yeah.
Right. How dare you teach witchcraft and math together?
Yeah.
To hell with you.
Secular or whatever the word is I'm looking for. What I love about this story in general is that you really embody, I think, what a teacher should. You're selfless. You're looking to share the love. You put in an immense amount of work. It's a thankless job being a teacher, and you always hear about teachers, spending money on supplies outside school because the salary and the school system isn't quite set up to just do that. And you go all in and take stuff from your own house, your Harry Potter stuff and more, and really just turn this into a hub, such a welcome environment of peace and acceptance and learning, and create that environment with your bare hands over the course of your vacation, your summer holidays. I mean, I can't applaud you enough.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I love the students that I get to work with. They have such a energy and such a zest for life that every day I show up there, I get another story, another, something that makes me laugh or makes me smile. And I really do owe that to my students. They kind of motivate me to get up in the morning and get excited about what I get to do, helping them learn and grow. And, so I just want to give everything I can to them. Yeah.
You also did say you are working Harry Potter into your lessons, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So give us a couple examples of that you have listed here. I think that's pretty interesting.
So first and foremost, I sorted all of my students into their Hogwarts houses, and I did that by giving them a survey the first week of school. And I took some of the questions from Pottermore and others that I just created that were kind of school related. And not only did it help me sort them, but it was also a way for me to kind of get to know them, right at the start of the school year.
That's brilliant.
But, so I got them sorted, and then I explained to them once they were sorted, I said, we're going to track house points. So when you are working hard, when you're helping each other out, listening quietly, doing the things that you're supposed to be doing in class, I'll go over and I'll say, hey, thank you, Sally, for listening quietly. Here's 5 points for, Ravenclaw.
5 points for Ravenclaw. Yeah. Do you ever take points away?
So far I've been against that.
Yeah.
Just because my philosophy is I always want to build my students up. So even when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I'll pull them aside and I'll say, hey, I know you can be doing better. So even when I'm kind of doing the discipline side of things, it's still about like positive reinforcement and building up their self-esteem.
Yeah. Don't make me go Snape on you.
Yeah. So there's a weekly house cup competition. I tally up all the house points at the end of each week. And then on Monday, I let them know this house won the house cup, and all the students from that house come up and get a little prize. And so that's just kind of something to motivate them to follow our class expectations.
Wow. And
then what else do you do teaching wise with Harry Potter?
So yesterday was actually the first time I did this, and it was a ton of fun. Or not yesterday, Friday. I gave them a quiz, but instead of just a normal quiz where it's a piece of paper and there's, questions on it, I made them sit in their houses with their teams, and we played Quizzitch.
Quizzitch.
And so, I just made a PowerPoint presentation, and then they had whiteboards at their table, and I would show a question. It was worth 10 points, and whichever house showed me the correct answer first, they got the 10 points, like scoring the quaffle.
Huh.
And so we did a couple rounds of that. And then at the end, there was the snitch, which was worth 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the final, I told them whoever won would get 20 house points towards the house cup. So it was a way for them to really, be able to compete with each other, but also for me to check in with, their skills for the math concepts we were working on this week.
Yeah.
Do you have any Hermiones in the class? They were like throwing up their hand every time.
I do. Yeah. And in every class, there's usually one or two. Yeah. Some other things just real quick that I'm planning to do this year is, we do some units on area and perimeter. And so I'm going to go out to our field and string up, the outline of Hagrid's hut and give my students, yardsticks and meter sticks. And we're going to measure Hagrid's hut for area and perimeter.
Oh my God.
It's kind of like an octagon, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. So that'll be good. They'll learn how to find the area of, polygons that aren't, rectangles and stuff.
Perfect. I love it.
How do you do that? You break it down into like triangles and squares, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. My school is coming back to me.
I despised geometry as a kid.
Yeah.
And math, really. I should have had your Harry Potter lessons. Would have been helpful.
So
cool. Well,
I just had one more question though, because you mentioned earlier that maybe a good majority of the students, they're not as familiar with the Harry Potter series because of what you've been able to do in creating the classroom and it seems even creating kind of your own curriculum around Harry Potter. Do you see the students becoming more interested in wanting to read the series?
Yes, that's been really cool to see just in a very short amount of time this school year. I've had 3 students so far. I have a class set, of like 20 of the first book.
Wow.
And I've already seen 3 of my students pick it up when they finish their work early. They pick it up and they're starting to read it. I had another student come up to me the other day saying, hey, I went home this weekend and I watched the first 2 movies. And he had never seen them before. So I am seeing some of my students who are getting interested in reading or at least watching the movies. And I just think that's great, whether you read or watch the movies, because, as we all know, the messages and the themes around Harry Potter are so great for young people to learn about, integrity and acceptance and tolerance and that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
if they're getting exposed to those things, I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. Well, you seem like a really good person, Kyle, and a really good teacher as well. So we salute you, spreading the good word with Harry's lessons.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure J.K. Rowling would be proud of you too.
Is the Hufflepuff chair as comfortable as it looks in the back of the room?
It is actually. So our in-service week before the students came is a really, really busy week for teachers. And on the last day of that week, I went in there with my laptop thinking I'm going to, answer emails. And I sat in that chair and I woke up 30 minutes later because I had taken a nap.
Man,
a well-deserved nap.
That's funny. Yeah. Micah loves sitting in chairs like that. I think.
Who doesn't?
I go to sleep for like 30 minutes during this podcast too, so it's all good.
Wow.
Welcome back, Micah. Welcome back.
Gonna make you the newsman again, so you don't fall asleep. Anyway, so Kyle, you actually had a question you wanted to bring up with us because you haven't had anybody to discuss it with, so you wanted to talk about it here. This is an interesting question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've noticed ever since, for like 10 years now, or maybe even longer, every time I go back and read the first book, very early on, I get stuck on one particular line, and it's on page 2 of Sorcerer's Stone. It says, when Mr. and Mrs. Dursley woke up on the dull gray Tuesday our story starts, there was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest that strange and mysterious things would soon be happening all over the country. And I always get hung up on the little part of it that says our story starts, because it's kind of referencing the narrator themselves. And it even has like this meta reference to the fact that we're reading a story as well, which I'm always curious about. Okay, this means that somebody is telling us the story of Harry Potter. It's not just this omniscient, godlike character, or it could be, but if it is, I'm curious who that character is. Who is the person who is telling us this story of Harry Potter?
So my first reaction to when I read your question here was that maybe J.K. Rowling, when she did start writing, had the intention of having this narrator and maybe using words like our a little more often. But then as she started writing further, she changed her mind, but kept that beginning part in just to keep some of her early thinking in the book. But we could come up with wild theories about, oh my gosh, maybe there was a narrator this whole time. Who was it? Maybe it was Dumbledore.
You guys, I think we're thinking about this too hard. I think it's pretty obvious that it's a Niffler wearing a monocle. Is the narrator of the entire Harry Potter series. I get that picture when I think of the narrator of the books. It's interesting. I've noticed this before, and there's a couple other places where it feels to me in the book that we're being narrated to. This may be in book 1, or perhaps it's book 3, but there's a sentence that begins, in years to come, Harry would never quite know how he made it through the studying for the exams of that year or something. And that's the sentence. It's like, in years to come, Harry would never be able to remember back how he did this. It
feels like a narrator
study. It feels, yeah, it's like, because Harry is not telling us the story himself at this point. He's like, man, years from now, I'm never going to be able to really remember how I did this. I'm doing this studying right now. And it's like, well, that's a weird perspective shift, because Harry, we've seen firsthand the events of at least the next 6 years of Harry's life. And there's no point where he has time to reflect on what he did for exams in year 1. There's just never going to be a point where that,
And if I'm not mistaken, I think in most of sort of the intro chapters to these books, we are taken through the events that occur previously, particularly early on. I remember them, it would be J.K. Rowling recounting the events and telling us about Harry and what happened to his parents and why he's in the situation he's in now. And that also has a very strong narrative feel to it. So I wonder if it is not just J.K. Rowling, aside from Eric, you mentioning a Niffler with a monocle, sitting in a very comfortable Hufflepuff chair, by the way.
By the fireplace,
yes. Yeah. So it is a really interesting question, the fact that you can kind of go back and look at that and wonder, early on, was it her intent to provide us with a narrator? And at the end of the series, we get a reveal into who, in fact, is telling us the story.
Yeah. Do you have any guesses to who it could be, Kyle? Did you ever just put a particular person inside your head while rereading?
I haven't really. I thought, there are parts of the story where it seems like we are kind of being told this story through Harry's mind, and it's almost like he's just reminiscing.
Yeah.
So I thought that he could be the narrator, but then there's other parts where that doesn't seem like it fits either. And I've just always been curious, who's this person telling us this story? Because I would be very curious to know more about that character.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
In hindsight, I do think it's very interesting because this person or whatever is introducing us to one of the greatest stories of all time. Mm. So to look back on it and see this little just different way of writing at the very beginning, I think is special and speaks to the enormity of what is to come. Right. But I do also feel like whenever I start reading a Harry Potter book at the beginning, they always do read a little differently in the first few paragraphs.
They definitely do. And I was also thinking if it was not that it's not important, but if it was for us to know that there was in fact a narrator, Sorcerer's Stone, the movie, probably would have opened up with some sort of voiceover.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does very much appear to be a useful book technique especially for a children's novel, to have somebody with the voice. There are a couple other examples I'm failing to remember in book one where, as a result of there being a narrator, there are jokes that are able to be made, or somehow the writing is funny, because there's a narrator telling us that story. I have to go back and reread, but I think that it's probably just, a good narrative device that she used. The tense, the point of view of the Harry Potter books, if I'm getting this right, is third person omniscient or third person limited. I think it fluctuates a little bit because she's able to deep dive down Harry's head and explain what he's thinking and feeling at all times, but is also able to, I don't know, she doesn't quite always stay with what Harry notices or remembers. Maybe it's first person omniscient, but he's not speaking. It's very difficult to pin down, but I think it fluctuates a little bit.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
Kyle, hopefully we helped a little bit.
Honestly, just being able to talk to somebody about this, because I haven't really had, as big of a fan as I am, I haven't had a lot of connection with other Harry Potter fans in my personal life. So it's nice to just
somebody get this guy some Harry Potter friends. Come on, everybody in Oregon City, Oregon.
No, don't. This is why people like MuggleCast, because we're their Harry Potter.
We're their friends.
We need to keep it that way.
That's absolutely true.
If you guys make friends, then you don't want to listen to us anymore. So let's not do that. So
if you guys have time real quick, I did have another, because I am a special education teacher. Mm-hmm. I have always thought about how Hogwarts does not accommodate for students with disabilities at Hogwarts. Mm-hmm. AKA in the wizarding world, that would be Squibs. And I always thought that there should be a place for Squibs in Hogwarts, because there are some subjects that they could learn about, like herbology, like, Muggle studies and ancient runes and history of magic. There's tons and tons of subjects that they could learn about, but for some reason they're not allowed.
Do you listen to the other MuggleNet Harry Potter podcast besides Speak Beastie, Alohomora?
I do, yeah.
So episode 206 of Alohomora was specifically on illness, special needs in the wizarding world, and how they're pretty much non-existent. And it was, I believe, a 3-hour podcast on exactly that topic. I would just love to recommend listening to that, specifically tangential to what any of us have thoughts on, because I know that episode was particularly well done and well planned out, as all of those episodes are, to deep dive into subjects like this, which, with people who are teachers who are more capable of giving an informed opinion.
It's interesting. One thing about that's interesting, though, is that, if you look at Squibs in the series, you have Filch, who's kind of a comical relief character, but then you contrast that with somebody like Mrs. Fig, who is honestly tasked with one of the more important roles in the entire series, and that's really keeping Harry safe at Privet Drive, indirectly, right? She's passing along information. So,
Right.
And I'm sure there's others that are mentioned that I'm forgetting, but it's interesting how they're portrayed, even though they have limited to no magical ability whatsoever.
It's true. And there are only those two examples, and there seems to be some sort of cliffhanger with Mrs. Fig, as to whether or not she can really see the Dementors that she's testifying about. I don't know, it just seems like, thinking of it that way or viewed through this lens, Harry Potter, the series, is often about the haves and the have-nots. If you have, you're a wizard, you're in the story. If you have not, you're basically not in the story. And the characters that are told in this story that they can't do something, it's just not, I don't think the story lends itself to being very supportive or inclusive or thinking of, ways to overcome that. It's Harry's told he can't, act up in class and defeat the Dark Lord, both of which he does. So I don't know but I don't know that that's particularly redeeming or inspiring. Am I off base?
No, I agree with that. Like I said, I think that, and we even see this in the Fantastic Beasts movie with a Muggle actually kind of taking care of magical creatures. And so why couldn't Squibs go to Hogwarts and take care of magical creatures? There might be some creatures that they aren't equipped to take care of, but they could learn some things in that class. They could learn some things in herbology and even potions.
Yeah, well, and there's something to, like, a silver lining too, which is that J.K. Rowling is getting very much better at maybe giving us that. You mentioned Fantastic Beasts. I think that's a great way to start, by having a Muggle main character, a character who cannot do magic, who isn't, who's very much the heart and soul of that movie, as we've stated before on this show.
Of course. That said, though, there is the scene with Graves and Credence where, obviously it's Grindelwald saying it, but that he could smell the fact that he was a squib the second that he met him. So it does have a very derogatory kind of connotation to it in the wizarding world.
So we're glad that Kyle is on this week, because we were just talking about the courses of Hogwarts, and we wanted to talk about it more this week. We had more to talk about last episode, but we just ran out of time. So we discussed last week, just to briefly remind everybody, a bunch of courses: astronomy, care of magical creatures, defense against the dark arts, charms, divination, flying, herbology, history of magic, Muggle studies, potions, and transfiguration.
But Kyle's probably upset that we left out one of the more important courses that I think he would be interested in.
Transfiguration?
Yes. No. Arithmancy.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. Well, see, I was under the impression that these were the only courses being taught at Hogwarts.
Well, there's ancient runes as well, but they don't play really any role in the series whatsoever.
Yeah, Hermione takes them. Maybe they help her with something, but there's definitely other courses at Hogwarts. And there's also clubs like gobstones and things like that.
You're right, yeah. So smaller classes, right, that just don't play as big of a role. Mm-hmm. But then if you do look at Pottermore, I don't know, they don't mention them at all, which is kind of weird. But anyway, so with these courses in mind that we spoke about last week, which course would we be playing hooky from the most? Which would we ditch the most? I wanted to ask. Because, we all have courses that we take in high school or college, and we're like, oh, not again. No, I'm missing it. I'm totally skipping. And then, you hope the quizzes are open note or really easy.
It probably depends on the professor. Because I would definitely put potions at the top of the list there.
Really? Just because of Snape?
Yeah. I would, although he probably is a good professor at the end of the day, just depends what kind of mood he's in. History of Magic, I could say, is probably another contender, but you could probably play hooky in class, given that Professor Binns is just so boring.
That's a good point. I'm trying to think what classes I actually did ditch in high school. Like me, myself, when I was in high school.
You didn't.
I don't remember. Yeah, I didn't.
You're a good student.
No, there's a couple classes where it'd be like if I had a study hall, I'd wander, or maybe I'd wander over to study hall from you ever take like an extended bathroom break, you get like a hall pass and they're just sort of wandering around and lingering. I guess they probably prevent that now with sign-in sheets and all sorts of other junk. But anyway, it was a good time to be alive in 2004. I remember learning astronomy sort of in school. Just real quick, Kyle, do they still have this class, or do you know anything about this where it's sort of like a portable lab? It's like one of those parachutes, like one of those giant parachutes that the kids play with, but it's like a tent, and they set it up in our gymnasium in junior high. And there's like sort of a projector, and you go in on the inside of this tent, but it's huge and circular, and they can put star charts.
I've seen that. I think we did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I learned some constellations and stuff just based on a day of, God, I don't know what class it was. Maybe it was science class. And I really liked it. So, I don't want to knock astronomy. And Andrew, in the last episode, you said it'd be awesome to go out, in the school at midnight. I agree. If I had to pick one I'd skip, it'd probably be divination, maybe. Unless I was particularly gifted and saw had some insight into it. That class just doesn't seem like it'd be comfortable being up there and being so hot all of the time.
It's so hard for me to answer because, like, I want to say, like, for example, herbology, but then I'm like, oh, but it'd be nice to, work with your hands and work with plants and stuff like that. And then you also think about cool moments in the book for any of these classes, and then you really don't want to skip them. But I would probably say history of magic. I've never really liked learning history. I just remember so many boring lessons in school over the years, and I don't even think if the subject is magic that would particularly make it any more interesting. I think history of magic. Yeah.
Well, and I asked a question on Twitter earlier this week coming off of our discussion on the last episode, which was, is there a chance, and I don't know what role he would play whatsoever in Fantastic Beasts, but could you see a living, breathing Professor Binns in future Fantastic Beasts movies?
You blew my damn mind when you tweeted that, Micah. I just wanted you to know.
His damn mind. Mm-hmm. Well, he could make some sort of minor cameo in the second Fantastic Beasts movie, I guess, right? Mm-hmm.
What if his death wasn't of natural causes?
Now we're really speculating. Now we're opening up.
Well, no theory is safe.
It's true. Though, as far as playing hooky, I don't see a real equivalent here, but when I was in high school, people cut gym all the time, or phys ed. I feel like that is flying is probably the closest equivalent. But do they really have a phys ed type of course at Hogwarts?
They're too busy running from. They're running from actual trolls and all the goings on in the magic school.
Unless it's flying.
Yeah,
that's the most physical activity you would get. But
I guess
that
flying
be
is
physical.
Yeah. Isn't it only year 1 too with flying?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
After that, they don't care about your health.
And at that age, you're too
England.
scared. You're not going to cut courses in your first year. Like, you at least need to be like 5th or 6th year to try that stuff out.
Yeah. And they give them enough free periods. I don't know. It's interesting. There is sort of a blind spot there where they eat all this junk food and don't have gym class.
How about on the flip side? Which course? And we'll start with Kyle, since you are the teacher. Which course would you most like to teach?
Well, I mean, I love Transfiguration, but I don't know if I would want to teach that. I think I'm a huge fan of animals, so I would love to teach care of magical creatures. And as far as like getting physical education, flying is great, but you're really not doing them a lot. I think trying to wrangle up creatures would give you a lot more physical exertion in that class.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to teach charms. Isn't magic great, everybody?
Then I would play hooky from your class if you're teaching.
Thanks, Andrew. I mean, if attending a class, I would love to attend Professor Lupin's DADA, but
I think yeah. I was gonna say I think I would like to teach Defense Against the Dark Arts. That seems like a very fun, hands-on. Yeah. It's probably easy to keep the class engaged.
I agree. That would be my choice. And here's the greatest part of it is you only have to do it for 1 year. You get your pension and you can go and take vacation.
Or you die.
Oh yeah. look, you got to weigh the costs and benefits with
pros and cons.
Pros and cons with Defense Against Dark Arts. But if it was a long-term tenure, I agree. I would like to teach that. I think it's a cool course.
Let's move on to this Patreon question. Micah, what did we ask our supporters?
So I think, Eric, you actually put the question out there. If you were asked to prepare and teach an entirely new course at Hogwarts, what would it be? And it can involve the Wizarding World or the Muggle World, so you can mix and match here. The most important rule that we posed was that there must be a good reason to teach it at Hogwarts. So I'll start off here. We had, I think, over 50 people comment on this. So we got a lot of good ideas, a lot of good responses. And start off with Christina Hernandez, who said, healing with magic. Basic first aid, like the kind of things we learn in school, that can be done with spells, simple potions, and herbs. I've always been curious why they didn't have a class like this, especially for those interested in careers that could benefit from those skills. Definitely.
We learned CPR in health class, and there was such a thing as health class, so why wouldn't there be healing with magic? I think that would be really
useful. Did you have to pair up with somebody, or was it a dummy?
It was sort of, it was a dummy, and it was like
I was hoping to get a good story here, but
like a class of 12 that all took turns, like, I don't know, whatever, when the tests came.
Mm-hmm. But okay. Matthew Jordan said, uncovering magical history. This would be an archaeological type class that would be for 7th years looking to be into a deep studies career on discovering magical history, lost relics, and uncovering what's thought to be lost. This would be a great way to discover the castle and finally uncover mysteries that they somehow don't know about, like the Chamber of Secrets. They can also adventure into the Forbidden Forest to learn about different species' historical grounds. There could even be field trips to different countries, whether it's high in the mountains or the edges of the seas. They can uncover some of the most heralded tales.
Huh.
I like it, but as somebody who just poo-pooed history and magic, I can't really support it.
But you could go on field trips.
Yeah, I guess that would make it more interesting. Would Binns lead them?
I don't know.
I guess Matthew would.
Yeah,
Matthew, are you fun? Are you as boring as Professor Binns?
Let Andrew know at Sims.
I like the idea. I genuinely like the idea of embracing the age of the castle, like around us. And, if we were at Hogwarts, just being able to spend extensive amounts of times, like, I don't know, even looking at the statues, wondering where they all came from, and learning like sort of that practical, like, this castle and you type class, right, where you're going around, even to the Chamber of Secrets, where you may happen upon a highly cursed, dark magical item from Slytherin that nobody else has found if you lift up a loose cobblestone or something. Mm-hmm. The possibilities are endless, and I would be endlessly fascinated in going on these field trips. So I love this class.
All right. Shannon Spicer, I like this one. Journalism. There doesn't seem to be a ton of journalistic integrity in the wizarding world, so a class on writing for print and ethics would be cool. This would also help get more witches and wizards interested in working for new entities and maybe prevent a resurgence of Rita Skeeters.
There you go.
Any relation to Sean Spicer? Your name is Shannon Spicer and you want a class on journalism?
Probably not. Let's move on. Adam Welsh-Kaiser says.
No, I'm not getting political, but I do want to say that I think it's a good idea, because how do people learn to write for the Daily Prophet, etc.?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you get people who are ambitious enough to apply, and that's about it.
But Eric, let's talk about Sean Spicer.
Save it for Millennial.
Moving on. Okay. Adam has kind of a similar response to Matthew from earlier. Maybe they could work together on a course. Magical artifacts. Understanding their use, creation, and destruction. Students must learn to combine principles of transfiguration, charms, runes, and elemental properties to understand the creation and destruction of magical artifacts. While other classes may have touched upon these subjects, focusing on how these disciplines overlap could lead to further discoveries in the vein of the Sorcerer's Stone, the Sword of Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff's cup, Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem, the Sorting Hat, and other important artifacts.
This strikes me as being sort of like a Newt independent study level class, of the likes which certain professors are shown or mentioned as holding, like, I don't know, maybe we see Snape's Potions Newt class, but a lot of the independent study or closed group, where the teacher isn't necessarily leading, but is only there to support the students' like intuition. Seems like that would be what this class would be best suited to do.
Yep.
You have students like the Marauders who were animagi when they were, 15? I mean, it's ridiculous. They're insanely gifted. So to somehow combine, the classes that they're learning, the disciplines, and figure out how they all fit together, that's very much an advanced concept.
Thesis type of project.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like you said,
so it speaks,
a Newt independent study.
so it speaks more to college, or I was even thinking like horror study, like the type of stuff that Harry and Ron would have learned when they become aurors, is how to mesh charms and DADA and transfiguration into sort of a more like wholly useful, well-rounded discipline. It's pretty advanced.
Okay. Jennifer Ellerby, or Ellerb, but I like Ellerby better, so even if that is your last, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's a Lurb, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, a history of house elves. In light of Spew and how prevalent they are in the wizarding world, there are likely many elves that were present at key points in history and probably helped to shape the outcome of events. Think even the few we know, Dobby, Creature, Winky. This course would cover how house elves have been in the wizarding community in different ways, homes, Hogwarts, and freed ones, and their influence on events.
I like that.
Yes. I want to read Goblet of Fire again just for all the Spew stuff. I miss the Spew stuff so much. I think I may have mentioned this a while ago. I used to have my own Harry Potter fan site, and I launched my own Spew Club on it.
Aww.
And I asked people to sign up, and they applied with a form, a little web form. And so I got their form, and then I got their submission, and then once a week I would go through the latest submissions and would manually email every single person and thank them for joining Spew. I had it down by heart. I didn't copy and paste these emails. I typed each one out, and then I added them to my to the website. The people have signed up for Spew. Anyway, all this to say, I used to love Spew.
So you would take this course?
I would, yes. Good idea,
You would teach
Jennifer.
this course, potentially.
I'll handle signups. I'm good at signups.
All right.
Related to house elves.
Jennifer Ellerby. Wonder if any relation to Linda Ellerby.
Okay.
Used to do Nick News. Remember Nick News, everybody? They did the topical...
Yes, but that is very biased and political, so we're not going to talk about that either.
Ashley Grigg raises, I think, a subject that probably all of us would be interested in, and that's music, because it's, quote, a magic far beyond all we do here. But not that weird choir toad thing from the movies. Obviously, the Wizarding World has its own bands and solo artists, the Weird Sisters, Celestina Warbeck. But where do they practice and hone their craft? A music class where you could manipulate music with magic would be so interesting.
Agreed. Wonder what the spell for a metronome is. Metronomus!
Sean McKee, Magic of Other Cultures, and this was a popular one over on Patreon. This class would examine the magic tradition of various indigenous cultures around the world, Native American, African, Asian, South and Latin American, both from an educational perspective to understand, I think it's trying to say Bathilda Bagshot. I don't know what BB would otherwise stand for.
Yeah.
But also how to use magic in ways that emulate these cultural uses to make your own style of magic more unique. It would be especially useful for aurors, I think, when tracking dark wizards, because it would give them different styles of magic to use, which would give the auror an advantage in a fight.
Definitely. So this started out as being sort of like an anthropological kind of cultural history type thing, and then evolved into a class where you're finding your own unique style. I see two classes there where, both would be very useful.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Goblet of Fire when Durmstrangs and Beauxbatons comes to Hogwarts. I think there's that angle you could take on it as well, and even doing like a study abroad program. to help understand, the different magical cultures that exist. And we know there's other schools beyond that were mentioned on Pottermore. So I really like that idea for a course. And finally, from Nada Atabani, I would teach a magical beings philosophy class, a course that focuses on intelligent magical beings like centaurs, goblins, house elves, giants, trolls, obviously not intelligent, but, they can be in the syllabus, as well as wizards versus muggles, specifically focusing on acceptance and teaching witches and wizards from a young age to accept them as part of the magical and non-magical world. I think that there is far too much prejudice in the magical community, and too many wizards grow up thinking they are superior to muggles and other magical creatures, instead of accepting that they may just be skilled in different areas.
I like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like philosophy in college, but I'll take this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's a kind of a spin-off of both Care of Magical Creatures and Muggle Studies. So
it really would create a more patient and understanding group, again, less self-concerned group of humans than we seem to have in wizarding government. Like, people
True.
just don't understand. And this is the problem with Binns' History of Magic. Like, we don't know much about Binns, but this is his failing as a teacher. He fails to connect it to relevance, right? He fails to
What did Binns do to you?
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, Kyle would agree with me, right? Like, you almost have to find a personal connection that these kids are not engaged. You have to explain to them why the 1813 or 1517 Goblin rebellions are worth anything, why they matter. You have to try and make a little effort in that front, right?
Yeah, you have to connect it to what's relevant and important to the students. That doesn't mean that everything has to be about what they want, but somehow get them to care about it. And the way that I do that is to show them that I care about them.
Great.
Oh, such a Hufflepuff teacher.
And
But yeah, it absolutely, like, being more culturally sensitive of other creatures. That's a great idea.
And I'll conclude here with an honorable mention. I thought it was too funny not to include. Haley White said that they should introduce a course called Time Turners 101: How to Not Screw Up a Timeline and Create an Eighth Book.
Bless you, Haley. Bless you.
I could see McGonagall adding that to the curriculum at Hogwarts in light of everything that happened in Cursed Child. I mean, she is very concerned.
If only to prevent somebody like Harry from talking to her the way that he did in that 8th book.
Boom.
Boo.
So a lot of great ideas.
Yes, thanks to everybody on Patreon who submitted answers there.
Oh my God, Jennifer Ellerby, who's listening live, says, yes, Linda Ellerby is a distant aunt of hers.
Oh, wow.
But I'm looking up for Shannon Spicer. I wonder if she...
She's not going to admit to the relation.
Yeah.
Or maybe she will. Who
Distant
knows?
aunt.
Micah, you mentioned arithmancy and math, and I was thinking about that, and honestly, I'm not entirely sure why wizards need to learn anything more than basic math. We use advanced mathematics to, create cures for diseases and predict weather patterns and, do space travel, all these really important things. But all of that stuff in the wizarding world can really be accomplished with magic. So aside from just knowing like adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, I'm not entirely sure why they teach wizards more advanced math than that.
It's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we all got calculators these days. Come on.
Hey, Siri.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Hey, Siri, how many sides does Hagrid's hut have? Hey, Siri, what's the area and perimeter of Hagrid's hut? All right, enough math, quote unquote, jokes. It's time for our pop quiz question of the week. We started this segment last week. The question was, how many courses are first years required to take? The answer is 7.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. Everything's 7. 7 or 12.
Andrew, can I make a suggestion for this segment if Kyle will let us?
Sure.
Can we rename it Quizzitch?
I was thinking that too.
We should name
When
this
you mentioned
episode
that.
Quizzitch. I think it's pretty perfect.
Yeah. Kyle, do we have your permission to change this to Quizzitch instead of Pop Quiz of the Week?
That's totally fine.
Yes.
Amazing.
Eric, I was wondering for this week's question, you were taking pictures of the questions at our trivia night.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give us one of those to see what hell we were put through?
I'll do you one better. There was a time when I was 15 years old and obsessed with Harry Potter, if y'all can believe that. And I went through the first 3 Harry Potter books and scoured them for every fact or statement that was listed. And I developed my own trivia questions based off those. So I'm looking at a document where I have the first 3 books and I assigned each question a difficulty. I basically formed trivia questions based off what it exactly specifically says in the books. So we have Quizzitch questions for the rest of eternity. But just from books 1 through 3, pick a book and I'll figure out what our questions should be.
2.
Book 2. Okay. What difficulty? There's easy, normal, hard, or sleuth.
Hard.
What is the only book that Harry is assigned that isn't by Gilderoy Lockhart on his school shopping list in book 2? The only book Harry is assigned that isn't by Gilderoy Lockhart.
That's a good one. That totally would have been at trivia night that we went to.
Yeah.
All right, so we will reveal the answer to that question next week. To wrap up today's show, we have a couple of emails now. This first one's from Kelly. She says, "Hey, MuggleCast, I am a more recent listener and have finally caught up with all your podcasts. Why did I never find out about your podcast until now? I'll never know." Well, welcome, Kelly.
Welcome.
I listened to the episode where Newt's hollow wands was brought up in discussion. I have a theory about this. My theory is that Newt switches out his cord depending on what he needs from his case of beasts. The magical creatures give him hairs and strings or whatever magical object is needed for wands as a payment of sorts for Newt protecting, rescuing, and rehabilitating them. This theory makes sense to me in that Newt was expelled from Hogwarts and maybe his original wand was snapped, but he is a smart wizard that could make his own wand that takes whatever core he feels is necessary for the occasion. That's her food for thoughts. She says, "Thank you guys for keeping this podcast going. I enjoyed listening to it while I'm at work."
Huh.
Thank you, Kelly, again. I like this theory.
Yeah.
Get a hair from a niffler, and then Newt's good at stealing things. I don't know.
Yeah,
Shiny things.
I think it's really interesting. We've never seen what a sort of hollow, or I think it was described at one point as a vegan wand, would do.
For anyone who forgets, this is getting back to when we saw Newt's wand, the one that they're selling. The core area does seem hollow, and the guest, like Kelly mentioned, was being expelled. If he was expelled, or at least there was an attempt at expelling him, his wand was snapped or the core was removed. But I'm hopeful that this will somehow play into future movies.
Absolutely.
The core mystery. This question is good. Kyle, maybe, well, you said your students don't read the books yet, but you might be able to relate to this in the future. This is from Michael, who's a teacher, and the subject line of his email was, "What is happening?" He said, "Hey guys, I just have to share this crazy story that happened to me this week at work. I'm a first grade teacher, and while I was greeting my kids in the morning, a 5th grade girl walked by my line of students clutching a copy of the Cursed Child script book. Of course, I stopped her to ask if she was a big Harry Potter fan and what she thought of the play, as her bookmark was almost near the end. She enthusiastically started talking about how much she loved Harry Potter, which of course is great. But then she went on a whole rant about how The Cursed Child is her favorite Harry Potter book ever. She said she loves the story and how scary it is. I know she's only 9, but I was so taken aback that kids reading Harry Potter have such high praise for the play and don't even realize it's not written by Rowling. She even said some of the old books were too long and had some boring parts. Daggers to my heart. I personally blame this response on the iPad-driven, low attention span culture that kids are subjected to nowadays. It makes me wonder how many other kiddos out there place such value on this piece of toilet paper that is the Cursed Child, and what fandom will look like, say, 20 years in the future."
I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to say it for all time. there's nothing wrong with you if you think that you like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. If you like it for it's designed to be a crowd pleasing slam bang tang, excitement, scariness. I agree. Some Harry Potter books, the fifth one, are too long. I get it. Fine. There's nothing wrong with you if you like Cursed Child.
Hold on though. It is still shocking that somebody would say it's her favorite Harry Potter book ever. Now she is only 9, and I think Michael mentioned the low attention span. I think it might also have to do with the fact that a script is probably a lot easier to read for a 9-year-old than book 5, 6, or 7.
I think 9 is probably too young to be reading Harry Potter. I would read that to children, but well, you know what? No, I hate what I just said. Children should pick up any book at all under any circumstances when they feel that they can read it and understand it. That's my opinion.
Kyle, do you let your students know that the Cursed Child exists?
I have it on my desk in my office, but I don't draw attention to it, and admittedly, I couldn't finish it. I couldn't even get through half of it.
Some interesting stuff happens in the third act.
I do. I listened to the spoiler episode.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
But I could not finish it.
You're getting it in the Micah and Eric context of like reading the Tumblr spoilers.
No. Look, but we've said on the podcast before, I'm sure if you go and you see Cursed Child in person, it's a much different experience. But if you're just reading the script, the story itself is questionable.
People are really tired of us even saying that. Yeah, even saying that, people are really tired of hearing it. I agree with it, but some people genuinely like the story, period. The story, period.
Let's not get into this whole discussion again.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you, Eric, that anytime a kid is going to read, whatever it is, that's good.
Yeah, if they're passionate about reading, it's great.
I do think that Michael has a point here, and I just thought it was funny that the subject line of the email was just, "What is happening? What is happening?" Kids these days, they don't know. They can't appreciate a good book when they see it.
Yeah, they don't know what's good.
Back in my day, we had to read a book a normal way without a script. Back in my day, Micah was the newsman. There were no iPads. All right, Micah, read us the next email.
All right, it's from Robin, and she says, I have a theory to run by you. Do you think a wizard could put a Horcrux in an Obscurus? We know humans and beasts can coexist with Horcruxes, i.e. Harry and Nagini. Voldemort could not control Harry, but if a dark wizard created a Horcrux and put it in an Obscurus, I think it would be more like the Nagini Horcrux, and the wizard would be able to control the Obscurus and force it to destroy whatever they wanted to. Ezra Miller described an Obscurus as the spirit of the Obscurial, which also makes me wonder if an Obscurus is already a kind of Horcrux, since it splits a person's magical and non-magical selves. As far as we know, Horcruxes weren't something that Grindelwald showed interest in, so it's unlikely that this would ever come up in the movies, but I still find myself wondering. J.K. Rowling seems kind of obsessed with the idea of wizards dividing their souls, so I don't think I'm alone in wondering how these two dark magics connect. And P.S. One of the best things about this show is the multiple generations of fans. I'm 22, and last summer my boss's daughter, Ella, mentioned that she had started listening to a cool Harry Potter podcast. Sure enough, it was you guys. If you could give a shout out to Ella and all the other young fans who listen to MuggleCast, that would be totally awesome. They may not have been there from the beginning, but they're the future of the Harry Potter fandom, and they totally deserve celebrating. So there you go. Shout out to Ella.
No shout out, sorry.
I'm playing the...
No, that's awesome. And I love seeing new listeners, no matter your age, new listeners coming onto the show, because I think that really inspires us, knowing that new people are still coming on board. And as part of Kyle coming onto today's show, he promised he's going to introduce his students to MuggleCast. So thank you, Kyle. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, Kyle. Try and pick an episode where we don't swear.
I'm kidding. I just threw that on him right now.
I don't want these people's parents coming after us. I don't think that an Obscurial can have a Horcrux. An Obscurial is already an offshoot of a wizard's persona. It's a parasitic life form which affects almost exclusively children. I just don't think that the magic is necessarily compatible. It's both dark, but I don't know. It's like pouring Coke and Pepsi in a glass together. What would you even get? They'd probably stay separate. You wouldn't be able to really taste the difference, but they'd stay separate.
Yeah. I mean, Robin presents an interesting theory here and connecting it to Harry and Ginny, but I think it would be too much, a Horcrux and an Obscurus. Like, I think J.K. Rowling would kind of see that as, like, dark magic overload.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like she's flat out said that, like, Voldemort cannot cast a Patronus. Like, just bottom line. No matter, I mean, he can be happy about killing hundreds of people. That can be his happy memory. But there's something in him that's broken that can't do it. And I think that that's exactly what it would be like for a Horcrux and Obscurial. Like, they're just not compatible. And I hope the Fantastic Beasts series is not going that way.
Yeah. And Grindelwald isn't into Horcruxes, even though...
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that before, how Grindelwald and Voldemort are essentially two different types of power seekers. Like, Grindelwald wants to extend his life and live as long as he can live, but in his body, like, through no means of messing with his soul. He wants to be the most powerful wizard. That's why he goes and gets the Elder Wand and, you know, kill as many people and recruit as many people to his cause. But he's not seeking immortality in the same way that Voldemort is, by bending the laws of dark nature and, you know, extending your soul and placing it in containers around the world. They're different leaders, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I buy it. Oh, okay. Yeah, so sorry, Robin. But, hey, good theory.
Yeah. And she also signed off by saying Ancora Imparo, which I just looked up because I didn't know what it meant, means that I'm still learning, which I think ties in very well just to this overall episode. Kyle as well. So
there's an episode title, Ancora Imparo.
James says, who's listening live, says, in regards to younger listeners, I'd keep them away from episode 300, #vibrating broom. That's right. That was the episode where we
And now keep them away from episode 338, where
we referenced 300.
Those vibrating brooms are still on eBay, and
Did we really spend our 300th episode talking about the vibrating broomstick?
Well, just for a few minutes.
We interviewed David Heyman for 200, 100, we got the 7th book, and for 300, we talked about the...
Well, you know, if J.K. Rowling wants to come on this show, we'll talk about something else.
Save us for 350, Joe. Please do it. Please. Everybody write J.K. Rowling right now.
All right, so that's all we have for this week's episode. We are going to have some news to talk about next week. I see that J.K. Rowling did a Cursed Child interview, believe it or not, for CBS this morning. One of very few interviews she's done about the Cursed Child. She did it to promote the New York City Broadway run. And speaking of that, registration to have the chance to buy tickets is about to occur. On the next episode, we're going to walk you through what that whole process is like and what it means. The Ticketmaster's verified fan program. I did it for Bruce Springsteen Broadway tickets recently, so now I am an expert. I will happily bequeath what I have learned onto the MuggleCast audience, because I know many people, no matter what your opinion is on Cursed Child, you probably want to see the play. Isn't that right, Kyle?
Absolutely.
Is that true? Do you actually want to see it?
I'd be curious to watch it. Yeah.
You know what?
Okay.
That reminds me. The tickets are going on sale next Sunday morning.
No. That's when registration opens up.
Oh, registration. Okay, I was going to say our next
there's a
episode can
difference.
only be just us trying to get tickets to Quiz.
We should. That should be the episode.
Like a bottle episode of us just trying to register, like the sound of a keyboard and like the mouse clicking and us going, darn, I'm in line.
Hey guys, welcome to MuggleCast episode 340. And all right, we're hitting refresh on Ticketmaster. And
exactly,
here we
like
go.
you're just the bottle episode where it's an event occurs. It's centered around a single event. It'd be great.
Well, there's your bonus MuggleCast.
Yeah. These tickets cost how much?
We will only make our patrons like Kyle suffer through the bonus MuggleCast of us getting angry at our computers.
So Cursed Child registration does open on October 1st, and it's open for a few days. So you don't have to register on October 1st, but you got to do it while that window is open. And registration will give you the chance to purchase tickets. You will not necessarily be guaranteed a ticket just because you're registering. But we'll explain more of that in the future.
All I said is that they will get a Turbo Man doll eventually, right?
What is that a reference to? I'm sure
Put
it's
these
something
cookies
pop culture.
down.
Jingle all the way.
Put the cookies. Thank you, Kyle, for not even attempting a governor. Thank you.
I see. All right. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you guys very much for having me. This has been a blast and
Awesome.
kind of a dream come true for almost 13 years now, I guess.
Awesome. Was so glad to hear that. I know you recently became a Patreon supporter too, which we appreciate greatly.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I also recently got married.
Oh, congratulations.
We actually got married on the 20th anniversary.
Oh,
no way.
That's sweet.
You nerd.
Wait, did you do that on purpose?
Well, for me, that's the reason why. It was also her great-grandparents' anniversary as well.
Oh, wow. That
that's
really
sweet.
worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have Harry Potter related vows?
My wife wouldn't let me put Harry Potter stuff in our vows, but we did have a snitch on our cake, and we had a duo, a violin and cello duo playing at the ceremony, and they played Hedwig's theme just before the bridal march.
Oh, that's cool.
What Hogwarts house is your wife in?
Well, she kind of refuses to take the Pottermore quiz. She's not as big. She's not really a fan, but I think she's in Gryffindor.
Cool.
Okay. Has she stepped foot in your classroom?
She has. She thought it was cool. She wasn't. She's not all into it like I am.
Yeah.
She's like, Kyle, what is this? What?
It's just your thing. Just keep it out of our house. She really was just making you take all your Harry Potter stuff out of the house, right?
Yeah. Is this this is your man cave? This is your man cave. Awesome. Well, congratulations on recently getting married. That's great.
Thank you.
Micah, Eric, and I are still wondering when that's going to happen for us three, but we're glad our listeners are getting married.
Yeah, it's been a lot of. I feel like we've talked a lot about marriage the last couple of weeks on the show.
Yeah, we have. Mm-hmm. Micah and I made a pact that if neither of us get married by 2020, we're just going to wed each other.
It's coming
Right?
up. It's coming up.
Unbreakable
Anyway,
vow.
a couple shout outs you wanted to mention, Eric?
Yeah, definitely. Shout out once again to Allie, Lindsay, and Danny of the Potterotica Show podcast and their upcoming performance at the Chicago Podcast Festival. Definitely look them up. It was really, really nice seeing them at trivia on Wednesday and just talking with Allie and Danny. Was a good time. So they represent a faction of Harry Potter fandom that I never dallied in all of that much, and they cater to it and do a very good job of it. So yeah, just go and see if it's for you. And also 17 plus only, really.
17 plus, probably.
17
yes.
plus, yeah. NC 17.
If you want to learn more about the show, visit our website, MuggleCast.com. You can follow us on social media there. You can also just go to Twitter.com/MuggleCast or Facebook.com/MuggleCast. We love your support over on Patreon. We are doing it weekly thanks to our patrons, Patreon.com/MuggleCast. I know we've had a little boost in signups lately, so thanks to everybody who has recently joined us. As always, we're trying to make it, we're trying to give you as many benefits as possible. We're trying to figure out something to, something to do to celebrate or to get to 777 patrons, because we're currently at 752. And, you know, with 7 being a magical number,
the most magically powerful number.
Yeah, we gotta think of something to do.
You know what, though? There's another shout out we have to give, and I would simply hate ourselves if we didn't. It's to Nikki Henry, who sent us socks to the MuggleCast P.O. Box.
Yes, guys, we are all free thanks to the socks that you sent us.
So Nikki works for a company called Socksmith, and these are the geekiest, nerdiest socks I have ever seen in my life. She sent us a bunch of them. One of them has a goat on it. Another has a werewolf, which looks very much like Remus Lupin, cause he's still got, like, jean shorts on. Unicorns, snakes, dollar signs. I have one that's, I wore last night. That's Sasquatch and Loch Ness Monster. Also sushi, beer, donuts. One that's a couch potato. One that's a fox, and it says 0 fox given. I mean,
that's
just
mine,
really unbelievably really talented, nerdy, gifty kind of socks. And Nikki gave us a whole box of them. We cannot thank her enough. Yeah.
Eric picked those up at the P.O. Box. I did not, because he is still not giving me a key.
I'm going to get you a key. Come to the zoo today. I'll give you a key.
Well, actually, I didn't want to bring this up, but Andrew, I'm pretty sure Kyle sent us an invite to his wedding, and we never got it.
You guys, I went. It was great.
Yeah. So wait, but awesome. You said we're free, so that means I don't have to do the show anymore, right? Now that we have these socks?
Only if I get you these socks. Maybe I'll keep them all for myself.
You're have the troubles life have given you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Whatever those may be. Anyway.
So the P.O. Box address is 4044 North Lincoln Avenue, Box 144, Chicago IL 60618. You do not need to send us anything. But if you have something like a nice little card or letter or something you want to write, you've been meaning to write, and you like the U.S. Postal System and using it, as some do, send us that. We'll be sure to read it on the show and give you a shout out.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate your support, as always. I'm Andrew.
I'm Eric.
I'm Micah.
And I'm Kyle.
Thanks again, Kyle. See everybody later. Goodbye.